Here is my setup for my sensors. I used three optical sensors, so they sense when black it would have a high value and any other color would be lower than that. So I used a threshold. Originally I had these spaced out a little farther, actually turned sideways like that. Only problem was they weren't in a perfect line, so I couldn't read the hash marks correctly. So I ended up switching it to how you see it now, which seemed to be a lot better. I don't have any gears. I just have the wheels directly to the motor. It was just simple. It worked. Only chose to use three wheels because it was just easier to have a better turn radius. The sensors are located in the front. Here, this is the first objective, just tracing the line. So when the left sensor reads that it's over the black line, that means it's too far off to the left, so it starts to turn right. When the right sensor is reading that's over the black line, and it needs to turn left, and that's basically how I programmed it. I originally did all while statements, which proved to be a problem later on. I had a hard time counting the cross marks on it with a while. It would kind of get stuck in the while loop, and then I had a hard time counting, but I figured it out. You'll see that in the second objective, and I rearranged my code for that. But here, it worked pretty well. It did have a problem every time I hit the hash marks. It would kind of have a little bit of a seizure, but it would usually it got past that pretty much every time, so it wasn't too big of an issue. And actually, I ended up using the seizure thing it has to count the cross marks for the second objective.
The first objective, it doesn't have to stop, does it? Alright, cool.
So for the second part, we had to count the hash marks, which I had a very hard time with, but I did figure it out. I had to change my very first statement that drives it forward to an if instead of a while. And what I did was I used a variable in each one of my state, or the if and the two whiles. The if is for going straight, the two whiles are for going left and right. But in each one of those, I put a variable in there and had it increment as that condition was true. So while it's going straight, Z was adding 1 every time it would scan, and same for the left and the right turns while it was in the turns. So I figured whenever it hit the line, it would seize back and forth, but it wouldn't go forward. So if the left and the right values were higher, and the straight for going straight, which is a Z, was, I would set it at a certain threshold. If those values hit a certain threshold, then it would count 1. And that's how I managed to get it to work. As you can see here, this is my homemade course in the garage. But it kind of seizes back and forth, and then it goes forward. So it would shake back and forth. I have an if. The values are under whatever threshold I set it. Then it would write it to go straight forward for like half a second or so. It was a little bit more than that. And then it would print the value out in that if statement. Having a hard time trying to explain this, but basically if the robot spent more time trying to correct itself and moving left to right than it did forward, then it would mark that as 1 and then drive itself forward to get over that the hash mark or the cross mark. And that seemed to be the key to making this work. Once I figured out how to do it, all I had to do was change the values for like the threshold and the bottom if statement to get it to work right, and it was a breeze from there. I hope you like my electrical tape artwork also. Once it reaches 4, which means it's come all the way back around to the beginning hash mark, it then stops, writes the motors to 90, and that's the end. It says finally finished. I realized this track is way longer than it needed to be. Really took a lot of space on my phone to record this, but hopefully you're pleased with it.